Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
And welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show. I'm your host, Jay Farrow, and I'm starting the show today working not by myself. Janine is actually downstairs supporting one of our clients at the law firm right now, and actually up to the last second is attempting to support that person with some ongoings with the case. So here I am, and I'll be doing this for a few minutes, and I will tell you that this is part of the life of the entrepreneur. I mean, you really never know what's going to happen. You got to roll with the punches, right? And week after week, we show up here and we attempt to create a safe space and show the world what it's like to build a business, to transform a business, and to keep going no matter what. And every single week it's presents its own challenges. So I'm here for whatever it takes, supporting her, running the show. If you want to reach me, I'd be happy to take your call right now, 888-565-1470. But it's been quite a week. It's again one of those weeks where you really have to become more resourceful. And what keeps coming up for me is this statement, is that I don't lack resources, I lack resourcefulness. And some of the things that come up, for me this week is just that. What am I missing? What am I pretending not to see? What am I overlooking? Luckily, or not, maybe not luckily, but some of the things that I have been doing for myself and continue to do for myself is take care of my physical health. And it's a big week for me. It's a really big week for me. It's a big week because tomorrow will be 3 years to the day that I went into my last coma from the way that I had treated myself for many, many years. And it's a milestone. It really is. And I think back to that time. Only, a few short years ago. And I got to say, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of myself. And as I think I'm being joined in the studio by co-host.
You're proud of.
I was saying that.
Wow.
And by the way, Janine just showed up.
Hi, guys.
Thank you for supporting the client in the way that you did. And I was explaining to the planet that this is a big week, that 3 years ago tomorrow is the time that I would went into my last coma. And people were like, how many comas were you in? 9. Yeah. But over 8 years, so I broke it up.
Well, you really outdid yourself in 2016 though.
2016 was a banner year, but I was thinking about what this means to me. I started to talk about what was coming up this week in this one big thought, or it's just like this sentence that keeps coming up again, is that no one lacks resources, they lack resourcefulness.
Okay, yes. I would say that this is a J-ism.
Yes.
This is absolutely a J-ism.
And that led me to one of to start going through the things that I was proud of this week, mostly my health and being on point with my health. And then that led me to I wanted to tell the audience that this is 3 years of transformation. This is the man that you see right now. I built in the last 3 years, and I remember waking up in the hospital 3 years ago, and it was different than I'd ever woken up in a hospital. I've been plenty of them, and I just couldn't move. I couldn't move my body, and that was a different experience for me, because I usually bounce back pretty quickly from when I was sick. And really, that feeling of being not being able to move. I mean, there's a bunch of things that happened, but I mean those feelings of wow, this is what it's come to.
Yeah.
That I physically can't move. You know, I have put my health into this position, and then making a choice right then and there, and whenever it was the first day or the last day that I was there, where I was like, you know what, I'm willing to do now anything that they tell me to do as
Yes.
far as my doctors are concerned to get better, and that choice of I want to be free, that choice of I want to be healthy,
Yeah.
led me to the next thing, and the next thing. And none of that was easy. But I will say this too. The hospital experiences, okay, gave me an opportunity to learn something I really never ever had before. I might not even have that much now, but I didn't have any patience. When you're sitting and I got to know the hospital routines pretty well. But when you're sitting there and you realize
Even I
that-
know shift change,
right,
7 a.m.
Right, so
there you go.
so there's hours that go by and there's nothing you can do. There's nobody coming for you. There's no one to talk to. I mean, there's Law and Order. By the way, Law and Order's on like daytime TV. I don't know how many episodes or iterations, but I think that you could possibly put that on and not do a repeat for eternity now. I think
Yeah, I think it's the longest running show.
but there's no one coming. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to talk to you. And there's just this time to be by yourself. And maybe there's not even so much patience as it is sitting with myself, and then becoming okay with where I'm at. Because there's nothing you could do. There's no getting around your circumstance.
Right.
There's no running from your circumstance.
Yeah.
And you're just there with your thoughts. And what I learned in those circumstances is to be okay with not being okay. Being okay with my circumstances of not being able to move.
Right.
So that experience of helplessness, or if you want to call it inability to move or lack of freedom, I learned something there. And that was I can
Sure.
get through anything. I can get through the next couple of hours. I can get through the next 6 hours. I can get through them by breathing. I can get through them by just having a conversation with my body. But I can also get through them without beating up myself. Because that is
That is big.
You want to talk about there's hard time, I guess they say. That the hardest time is, going through an experience, telling yourself you're not good enough. You're not, you beat yourself up.
Yeah, you're unworthy.
Right.
So battling that, I think, is huge. So I would like to acknowledge you too, because it's huge. And sometimes as someone who works with you, is in close proximity to you, it's sometimes easy to forget how far you've come in such a short time. And I mention that because sometimes maybe I give you a lot of breaks. I know I do. But sometimes I think that maybe I don't give you the break in the right way, right? So what I mean by that is like, you've really come a long way. Because I remember you in that hospital bed. So it's kind of a remarkable story. And congratulations, Jay, to 3 years where you are actually enrolled in life and actually living your life. And this is something that is a big distinction, because I think there's a huge difference between existing and living your life on purpose with purpose. And you've managed to do that. And no, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. No, we haven't had the easiest of weeks and a lot of other different things that come up in life. But you're giving it your best shot. And some days that looks more palpable to others or palatable to others than other days, but it doesn't matter. You're still giving yourself a shot every single day. And I acknowledge you.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I was just thinking that there's been a few more people that don't recognize me. Our neighbor Like I was walking past him today, he just didn't recognize. He didn't recognize.
Who?
Mike.
Mike?
Yeah.
Wait.
If you're looking at, he's like, who's that guy? And he's like, oh, Jay, you got a beard. I'm like, I've had a beard for almost a year. But it was like,
Yeah. A lot of people don't recognize you, actually.
But that's like it's an amazing experience to go through 3 years of purposeful transformation, and really the last year and a half plus of intentional transformation in life, business, health, and then people don't recognize you, and then when they see you, they're like, "What? You look this good." And if I can do this, anybody can do it. And no week is perfect. No week is ever always on fire or always this way or that way. It does really go up and down like a roller coaster.
It does. And
this is the nitty gritty of taking your life on. 2 weeks ago. I think today, 2 weeks ago today, I've not missed the gym in 2 weeks, and I've eaten more or less on point. And I will tell you that the difference in my outlook and feeling is palatable, because even with the circumstances that came up over the last couple of days, and especially today, I had this feeling I couldn't get rid of it this morning. It's like things are going to be okay. I'm like, no, they're not. And this feeling came back. No, Jay, you're good. No, I'm not. And I was like, but this overwhelming feeling like, oh my God, like you're really good. And the other thing that came up was, you got this. I kept on telling me that. Like there's some other voice saying, you got this. You got this.
Thank God. First of all, I would like to personally thank that other voice very much. Thank you for existing, and thank you for putting up a fight to the catastrophe voice. Because that's, really something that you've been working on, I guess, and fighting for, because the catastrophic voice is just like catastrophic all the way around. Because Mr. Farrow is rather loud in his expression of what he's going through. So that's awesome. I will share, actually, funnily enough, because, I'm the type that's always like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Yesterday, I went to spend time with family, and my 16-year-old niece asked me how my day was, so I told her. And she looked at me so lovingly, because she is the cutest thing on the planet. And she said to me, wow, I'm not going to lie. It sounds like you've hit rock bottom, but the only way to go is up. So you're going to be good. And when she said that to me, I dried my tears, completely laughed my head off, and was like, wait, did a 16-year-old just tell me I hit rock bottom? Oh my God, this is anyway, it was so great. And
wait a second, a 16-year-old tells you've
hit the best part is the way she tells me, listen, I'm not gonna lie, you've hit rock bottom. Anyway, it was so awesome. And she's like, wow, that's been your week so far? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. She's like, wow. But my point is that
I want one of those. No, it's like a 16-year-old to tell me that I've hit rock bottom.
I'll lend her out to you. Okay. You'll see. But at any rate, so congratulations. I'm my voice of "it's going to be okay" was super loud today too, and yeah, I had some really productive conversations at the office and some really good things. So I want to talk about this concept of rock bottom. There's a reason why. I've been listening to a book. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And it's absolutely fascinating. So on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about this book because I think it feeds into everything that we're about to talk about. Great.
We'll be right back.
Great.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. It's our first Friday in November, and Thanksgiving's right around the corner. It's 8 weeks until Christmas, and so everybody and all you listeners out there, it's we do receive gifts. We have in the past. I'm not kidding. Thank you, Kim, for those socks. Again, those are fantastic. I wear them every single day. I can't show them. I don't know. You can see them right now. But yes, I'm wearing your socks right now. So we're opening up the possibilities and giving you guys advance notice that the gifts are appreciated. And, we will give you...
this is the part, this is
what?
an aspect of you that I just think is the best.
What, the shameless, what?
Yeah, because I think it's like so genuine and beautiful and childlike and like, I don't know, there's something really innocent and cute about it. So
It's called entitlement.
well, that part of it, no. But I think that there's like a cute little childlike energy that comes behind it. So okay, so when we were going to the break,
rock bottom.
we were talking about rock bottom, and you wanted to tie it into a book that you're listening to. So do tell.
I'm listening to a book by Napoleon Hill. It's an interesting story behind this book, and actually, he's the guy that wrote like the Bible of personal development, Think and Grow Rich. It's hard to read Think and Grow Rich. It's like stereo instruction. It's not like a book that you read. It's like you pick it apart, and there's like there's courses on it. And if any of you don't know who Napoleon Hill is, he's a guy. He was actually about to go to law school.
Really?
And he had an interview with Andrew Carnegie. Which led into him studying the most successful and unsuccessful people on this planet for 25 years. And then he published a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Amazing.
And basically came up with the philosophy of self-development and the science of self-development, as he would call it. There's like 17 traits that he talks about in his book, and it's fascinating. I mean, everything from being intentional with what you want, writing it down, visualization, going the extra mile, even hygiene. Just it's all in this book. It's like if you can get a hold of this, get it and start with any chapter. And there's wonderful YouTube videos on it. Anyway, he wrote a book right after this.
Okay.
This
a lesser known book.
A lesser known book. It's called Outwitting the Devil. And in this book, he writes it's a manuscript. It's now a published book. He has a conversation with the devil.
Oh.
And the conversation is about he asked the devil to give up his secrets about how he controls the minds of 98% of the people on this planet.
Oh, good Lord.
And it's written in such a fashion as it's an indictment of schools, churches,
oh my goodness.
The whole education system and what it's lacking. And it's the devil talking about how awesome it is to be able to control people's minds through fear, through indulgence,
manipulation,
through manipulation, but the fascinating part is how it talks about indulgence over food and sex and certain human compulsions.
Right, so the deadly sins, and one of them is gluttony.
Gluttony, sloth. Mm-hmm. But he describes the devil. The devil describes himself as a force.
Hey, Glennie.
Hey, Glennie. Happy birthday, belated birthday.
Yes.
He describes himself as a force like the electron. That's it. This is like a neutral thing. So what
describes the devil describes himself
as the negative opposite of what he calls it, the opposition. So he says you can't have one without the other.
Right.
And what I do here on this planet is I fester in people's mind that are in this drift. He talks about the drift, which is like fascinating. And he calls it drifters, or people that are unintentional, the gossipers, people that engage in compulsion, food compulsion especially, and sexual compulsions and not focused, period. So he calls them drifters, and he can identify the drifters, and he can take the drifters' souls, and it's an interesting take. But part of the book, he talks about your highest self, your greatest self shows up in the most amazing circumstances, and those circumstances are when the stuff has hit the fan. That's basically what he says, is that a man or a woman will find himself, although he talks about men because this is back in the 30s as the book's coming out, so you just got to bear with the pronoun. But he talks about this great self showing up in the worst of circumstances, in the most perilous of circumstances, he doesn't call it rock bottom, but he's talking about rock bottom.
Yeah.
He's saying that you will find your ability to become resourceful when you have the world crash down on you. And more or less like wishing that the world crashes down on more people to find their greatest, highest self. Because if things are handed to you, and he talks about this, as children, if things are gratuitously handed to you and you don't work for anything and you don't learn the value of things growing up, and have some type of a job that you're working with your hands, that this leads down to the path of ultimately drifting, envy, the sins, and the like. But he says that you will find whatever that is. It's not you. It's not the you that walks around this earth 99% of the time. It is a higher best self that shows up in the most amazing circumstances that would usually crush people, but he's like, no, that's actually where you're about to find the good stuff.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. That's amazing, because I got to tell you, I'm not reading that book. But I have to say, as I hit rock bottom yesterday, I found my best self and laughed my head off and was like, nah, I'm not done. I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm so not done. So, I don't think that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I could have ever even related to something like that, because my hard times were like really Gucci hard times.
Did you say Gucci?
Gucci, yeah. Gucci and very bougie and like, hard times. They weren't like in the trenches of like, wow, where are you going to come up with the next thing? How are you going to turn this ship around kind of stuff? It was very different. And I don't begrudge that either, because it was awesome. But where we are now, yeah, I mean, it takes something quite different skills, and also a very different belief in capabilities.
Do you remember Jeff Foxworthy?
Yeah, of course.
He had this whole thing about that if you're a redneck and he's got like, if you ever stared at a bottle of orange juice because it said concentrate, you might be redneck.
You might be a redneck.
Okay. If you ever stared at your dog for the possibility that he might have some extra organs to sell, I'm not saying I did that, but I did. I looked at Mitchell this morning and I was like, he looks like he's healthy. He's got to be worth a few $1,000s on something, keeping him alive, of course. That thought crossed my mind. Other than and then pawning, not selling the pianos, and a couple of other things. Because I was like, listen, I'm just going to throw it in. I'm going to get the money back. It's kind of like a trade. It's like, hey, I'll put this in for that. If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't thought about selling your socks, I mean, for whatever value that they might have, in order to make your next obligation,
you're
not in it yet.
Yeah, you're not in it. You're not in it yet.
So I wanted to kind of play, because I'm actually one of my fantasies is, I'm just going to say it out loud, I want to do a stand-up routine of comedy. At like a comedy show, yeah. I've been practicing in front of my girlfriend, and I don't think she thinks I'm that funny. I mean, sometimes I am, but she tells me when I'm not. But I'll say this: I would love to be on stage with a kind of routine about the entrepreneur. Kind of a play. I'm not following necessarily what he's doing, but just the things that come up, because I think that there's some humor in this, right? I mean, it's got to be partly funny.
Definitely.
It's like
there is. There's got to be, right? Because. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I do know that everything that we're going through and everything that we've been through, and even when we're in easier times or whatever, I know that all of that is preparing us for like it's like the good. There's something in it. I don't believe it's gratuitous. I used to. I think that most people think that, and then they never are curious enough to learn what could be there. What else could be there? And I think that remaining curious in that, for me, has been instrumental to, I don't know, still having hair as a woman. That's
still having hair. So
Yeah.
I was thinking about like what I've done in the last like number of days to like, tighten my belt, okay? Like just tighten things up a bit, right? So I don't fill up my gas, obviously, but It's so funny. It's like
It's not funny.
No, it's hilarious
It's not
because
funny,
I was at the 7-Eleven. I was like like whatever it was, like $12 and whatever on pump number 3, and she's like, the Mercedes. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, that's
just want to top it off.
Wait, isn't it ironic? Did you think?
I just want to top it off. But one of the things that I'm glad that we haven't sacrificed is the food. Thank you, Dulce. By the way, the food's been excellent.
Yeah.
Taking care of health, and also asking, even when it hurts to ask.
Yeah.
Bringing
Yeah,
things
having
up.
those difficult conversations.
And I have no conversation about telling the planet that this is what this is what you're going through. This is what I'm going through right now. This is what the business is going through.
Yeah.
Because on the flip side of that, okay, is we have a business that's coming up that we've been open for 12 years. That's now transformed itself and is funding, of all the things that we're doing. We might not be paying ourselves the salary, that period. But
Yeah, I was going to say, at all.
I was going to say, but on the other side of that, everything else is getting funded. Everything else is getting done. And now we've gotten
Yeah.
the support of another number of lawyers that are providing, that we've enrolled in the vision of what we're up to. And, the feedback that we're getting from the work and whatever it is, it's like, how many people you guys, over there, like 5, 6 lawyers and stuff like that. And, I'm like, well, what we do is we partner up. And so we basically manage what we want people to work on. Mm-hmm. But it, essentially is like, it's 4 people.
Yeah, we've said this before. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of pride. I'm on the tail end of it, in the grammar and checking and making sure that it's okay when things go out and different things like that. So, not being a lawyer, I'm not writing anything to that extent. But I see the evolution of the quality of the work. I see what goes into it. I see what goes on, and Mira. I tell you
Mira.
every day, thank you for existing.
Right.
And just a lot of different, a lot of growth, I should say. A lot of growth.
I just don't look at this circumstance like I did maybe some months ago when we showed up here, and it was like everybody, even the feedback we got, like, wow, we haven't seen you guys like that before. We've walked in the studio under identical circumstances and been like, oh my God, blah, 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 how horrible, how everything else. And really, that's what I love reading. Even the Audible books, when it comes to personal development, because there's so much good stuff out there. Because, hey, by the way, you're not the first person to go through this, and congratulations, you're on your way. Because guess what? I'm standing on top of this mountain, and I see where you are, and I see you on the path, and that's exactly where I was. And, that big rock, yeah, you're going to have to go over that, whatever. I know what you're going through, but guess what? You get over that, and you get over the next thing, and get over the next thing, and, one day you'll find yourself here talking about how it was to be there. Mind you, I'm listening to the guy who's higher than me, and I'm listening about, I'm complaining about my own woes. Because every person that I know that we've been through as far as the seminars are concerned has said the same thing. It's like they're going through their own version of what we're going through. Okay, so I don't think this ever ends. I think it becomes a little bit more comfortable when you have more of the financial stability. But other than that, because if you have the hunger,
you're always growing and creating something else that's going to cost X more amounts, and then you've got to come up with that. Grant Cardone says, when you're growing like that, you're only going to have better quality problems, but you're always going to have problems.
Right.
And he talks about, first you're worried about making your first million, and then you've got to figure out how to make the more, and then this, and then you want to buy a project that's $100 million. How do you come up with that? And then it's the next level and the next level and the next level after that. And it's not just about the money, though. It's about the mindset and trusting. What I think that this is showing us now, it's building the muscle of what we're actually capable. This is what this is showing us, this phase.
It's not.
It's showing us so many different things about what you're capable
Somebody
of.
called me yesterday and asked me some legal questions about. It was like a law school exam. It was they had a piece of intellectual property that somebody wanted to use. It was like a story or a book that they wanted to use that someone was interested in taking that story and writing an opera. And this person that wants to do the opera is extremely famous.
Wow.
And they wanted this story. So it was basically 3 siblings who have their dad's work who want to do this. Now, the siblings can't agree with necessarily what's going to happen with this. And then you have the opera thing. So, and she's like, you know anything about this? I was like, by the way, I know this, and this. And the amount of education that I've received in the last 20 years through the practice of law and law school through being a lawyer. I mean, I got to tell you, like, I had a mentor. His name was Tom McLaughlin. He said, I had a case. And he said, Jay, if you ask me about something, I've had a case on it. And I found this guy fascinating, and I always wanted to be Tom because he knew, like, it could come trademark. It could come criminal. It come family. It become the civil racketeering. I mean, if you asked him about it, he knew enough not just to be like dangerous about it, but he could guide you into the right direction to show you how to navigate through some waters.
Right.
And when I was talking to this woman, I was like, I mean, unbelievable. And then yesterday we had the opportunity to meet with 2 clients that are in jail. I mean, we met with their families, but they're in jail. One of them, he's 19 years old, and they threw away the key.
Yeah, no, it's
and there's a possibility of not just a possibility. There's a good chance that if we work the way that we know how to navigate through a couple of different waters, that this is going to be a free man.
Yes,
and the other guy was in for like 11 years, and there's a recent change in the law that might provide him a resentencing, and the ability to say, "Hey, yeah, I got that." I through my years at the state attorney's office and through knowing the pieces and components, and then also knowing that where I may not have an answer, the world is an open book. It's an open book exam.
Yeah.
You know?
You can find out.
So
find out, figure it out.
I'm willing to say
be resourceful.
I'm willing to say yes because of my competence, my foundational competence.
Right.
I'm always to say yes because I understand that even if I don't know, I can figure it out. And I have all of that. And that's one thing that I'm so proud of myself is like that there's nothing that I don't think that I can figure out or get through. Mm-hmm. My dad would argue with that.
Would he?
Because I don't know how to change my oil in my car.
Ah, well, but you could figure it out.
I'm not going to talk about that.
Is that a sore subject?
We're going to take a break. On the other side of this, we're going to talk about something that just came up in our office, and it's a little bit heavier. But if you want to call in, 888-565-1470.
Join us. We would love to hear from you.
888-565-1470.
Talk to us.
Farrell Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrelllawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrell Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show.
With Jay and Janine, give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. Happy November the 1st. And that means that...
It's also All Saints Day.
What's that mean?
It means that, well, it's a Catholic holiday that acknowledges all of the saints who are patrons of our faith. Saint Anthony, for example, the church that we go to, Saint Patrick, Saint Teresa, Saint Mary. So today is like a day for them, and it's All Souls Day, right? So today is the day where you do special prayers for people who have passed on.
Hey, Kim.
So, hi, Kim. How are you? We've missed you.
So,
and speaking of All Saints Day, before the break, you had mentioned something that happened to the office.
Right, I'm going to mention something that happened in the office. I'm just going to am I supposed to do something? Because I think I'm part Catholic now, so. Was I supposed to get something on my forehead or something this time? That's not this day.
Time, not this day. But it is a holy day of obligation, actually. No, you're supposed to think of the people who've passed on and say prayers for them, for the souls. So, at any rate,
Okay,
and speaking of which, Jay and I had a client for a couple of years, actually, or maybe about a year and a half. And we found out she's been on my heart. And I said to Jay yesterday, I haven't heard from her in a while. And when she came to us, she shared that she was going through foreclosure and she was also battling cancer.
Actually, she started with the foreclosure piece. She didn't know she had cancer yet.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
actually, the first time that she told me that she had cancer, I was in Los Angeles and I was on the phone with her and I was talking to her and I spent about an hour with her on the phone talking about mindset, talking about, first of all, that we're with you. We're kind of an unusual law firm in the sense that,
I've said that a lot this week. We are an unusual law firm.
But I said to her, it's all, keeping your mind set on what you want, and getting yourself healthy. And it's we're with you. We're praying with you. But I said that, this all the things that are going on with you, you're going to require a lot of faith, a lot of work. And she even told me in that phone call, like, I'm sorry to say, but I sensed it in her from that first phone call, is that she had a little bit of what it was going to take, but ultimately she had already resigned herself to what ultimately happened. Now, I'm going to say this, that saying this, she was in my heart. I mean, I really connected with her and felt that certainly that we could help her, and we did. But one of the things I'm just pissed about right now is that how she was treated by the bank for the 2 years that she was going through this. The bank had made some kind of an error and then declared her late on her mortgage statements, and we rectified it once or twice, and then we thought we had the problem permanently solved, and then they came right back again with the same stuff. And who is the servicer? Because I think they deserve this one. Who are
Ocwen.
they? Ocwen Servicing. Let me tell you something. I've been dealing with Ocwen as a foreclosure defense attorney, and then also against them for violations of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. We never pulled the trigger on that in her case because she didn't want to.
Too ill.
She was too ill.
Yeah.
But I mean, that Ocwen. I'm going to tell you just straight out. I mean, for a year and a half. I mean, you
participated in the torment of someone fighting for their life.
Fighting for their life, and the thing is that your internal disgusting. Procedures. I'm talking to this company like it's like sitting right over here. Suck, and you hurt people. And
repeatedly. In fact, how many cases do we have of people in our office that they've hurt over and over again because of their mistakes and because they're almighty and powerful? They just destroy people's lives. Credit scores, all kinds of things. And
this woman
they tormented this poor woman.
And this woman went through it and went through it and went through it, and it was all over her. And this is like one of the things that was constantly on her mind was the fact that she was losing her house and her life at the same time. And it was all because Ocwen wouldn't fix their numbers. And it was because they just didn't have ability to do it. And it's not just her. There's thousands of people that Ocwen screws with. And I'm just, I'm going to call you out by name. And there's... Right. So when I heard this today...
Right. So what happened was, I'd said to you yesterday evening, this woman is on my heart. I'm going to email her. But something told me. So we found out today that she had
How'd you find out?
We went looking, or I mentioned it to Mira, and she went looking, and she found her obituary.
Oh.
Yeah. And so she had passed away in September already. And she died at my age. 46 years old.
Wow.
And just days before her birthday. And so that really hit home. It actually saddened me tremendously because I actually had the pleasure, I will never forget. In fact, we were on the way to the show and I was helping her with something to do with the servicer. And she's like, "Oh, I have your cell phone number now. You watch yourself." And I'm like, "Girl, you call me anytime you want, So we were a small part of her life, but she meant something to me, and her fight in it mindset, no mindset, whatever. Her fight in it was something that I admired very much.
And I'm not faulting her for how she felt. I'm not saying anything about it, but I just heard it in her voice. And
Sure.
it's
Sometimes
like,
you just know.
and sometimes people have the fight, and some people don't. Some people have that, that resignation in their voice, and it's like there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the medical community helps at all with that, because being on the other side of it, the way doctors speak to you when you have a very serious diagnosis, there is no, not only bedside manner, but there's just really no humanity in it. It's really, really disgusting. And the only chip on my shoulder that I actually still have to this day is the way my mother was treated during her cancer. And she's one of millions of people who were treated exactly the same way each time. So, I mean, yeah, I'm still mad about my mom, but the truth of the matter is that everybody's treated that way in many occasions. Not everybody, but like, I'll never forget, I'll share this story because it really kills me. Her oncologist called my parents' house to deliver some really serious, horrific news. And he's like, oh, hey, Janine, so we can't treat your mother anymore. Her blood work came back, and she's no longer able to be treated. So could you let her know? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, doctor. Do you actually think that her daughter should be delivering her death sentence? I don't think so. You need to have that conversation in person with my mother and explain to her that she can no longer be treated. And this was one of a litany of experiences that we had. And in speaking to other people, they've had very similar experiences. Like, I have mad respect for the medical community. And, and I have also seen the dark side of it as well. Like the part where they're just like, hey, I mean, I will just never be able to forget that. That was really traumatizing. That I knew my mother she received her death sentence, and he told me instead of her. So it's kind of crazy. Anyway, this is taken like and Jay told me, he's like, don't you think this is like a darkish topic? The reason I wanted to say it though is
you didn't tell me that you're going to be calling out like the whole that doctors do X, Y, and Z. I mean,
well, I didn't know. This is an impromptu, like, this is a show that is based on, we go with it. What's that called? Not impromptu, but
what I'm saying is what I'm and as neutrally as I'm taking that, it's like that's how like stories, like like the story of Rock Bottom, the story of I have stories about lawyers. And
yes, by the way, I hear a lot of those stories, and we're thankfully on the other side of them. Actually, it's beautiful. Like, people use those stories to use examples of contrast and how they're treated in our office as opposed to how they've been treated in the past. So that's a good thing. The reason I wanted to mention Francis, though, to circle really back around, and I'm so sorry that I went off on that tangent. It was just literally a memory that came through me right now. So it's because it dawns on me that we just don't ever know the day, the time, or the hour of anybody's life or anybody, and that we're all precious. And I'm thinking of this woman who we were clearly not close. We had a business relationship, but she meant something to me. And I think it's important not to take for granted. And so I wanted to mention it because it was something that touched my heart. But on the grander scheme, to also just be, what it helps me to do is anchor into the preciousness of my own life and the preciousness of the life of people around me. And I appreciate it. And so there's no accident too that tomorrow will be your 3-year anniversary. So yay. Life is precious, however long or short we have it.
Okay. I'm going to, I want to challenge you on something.
Sure.
Because when we talk about things, when we're talking about stories and we're talking about how we anchor them and then what we make things mean, it's like, even what I was just doing with Aquin and casting them out and the thing about what had happened to them, don't you think that that holding on to those stories is like something, and then projecting them onto the future events is like something that we do talk about, and that's like, I'm glad that it came up for you, And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
looking at this as a bigger picture. I mean, how does that serve? I'm just saying, just in general, by even whatever chips on your shoulder,
Yeah.
because I know that I have plenty of them, and I know that every time that something's coming up for me, and I want to blame, like I did today,
Yeah.
I want to blame the usual suspects.
Yeah, of course. They're easy. So you know what? It's interesting. I've been going through a lot of different things, and what I think that came up for me too, because one of the positive things about me is that I do always look for a lesson. I do always look for the silver lining, and I do always. But what I was bypassing in doing that is also going through processes, right? So the process of anger, process of grief, a lot of different processes. And so I think that's coming up for me because a lot of processes that I neglected over the last, 10, 11 years, in fact, have been coming up for me. And I know that they're huge gifts to like grow and expand me, and also be super aware of how I've jumped certain things and sort of kind of like keep calm, carry on, and never actually go through eliminating them for good, right? So they stay there, and they stay there as a story. And this story that I shared with my mom is no different of an example. That's something that I get to look at and work through, because obviously it still hurts me. And of course it still hurts me 10 years later after losing my mom and all of those circumstances. But I did such a good job about burying the details and not really working through it to kind of get on the other side of it truly. And I think that's been coming up for me a lot. So,
Because when I was,
it's growth.
I'm listening to you, and we're all right on time. No, one of the things when I was a kid is that I had some family members that would sit at the dining room table and be so right about life, politics in particular, to the point where I would see this human being transform within a matter of seconds from a normal past the potatoes look to one of just fierce anger. And I'm just, this is the way things is, this is what it is. And everybody in that community, whether it be a party, a national political party,
Yes.
another type of social group, like in my family was Swedish, they had a thing against Norwegians.
Right.
And there was other things that were said about people that were one way or the other not thinking like these individuals that were at the dining room table. And when that happened, I lost all sense of what was right, what was wrong, the possibility of choice. And what I attached to was, I want to say, do, and listen to anything that human being says, so I am not the object of that wrath.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And when you just did that, it clicked into me immediately, like that feeling of, I better agree with her or something like that. Otherwise, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on the end of it, because she's so right. She has she's got the thing. It's happened to her mom. How if I say anything about what she's up to, or saying. But I remember that when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, there was just this instant snap, and it's a da 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 da. This is exactly what these people are. And I was like, listen, as long as they're talking about someone else and not talking about me, I'm going to agree with that human being.
Yeah,
And then I
sure. That
agreed
makes
with that
sense.
human being for so long that, I did things like,
Well, you said some things this morning, actually, that human being would have said as well. So it's really interesting, because those things don't go away so easily.
no, I'm not saying they go away.
And no, and I'm not. I'm just saying that they're there. Similar to like what came up for me. It's like, that memory just triggered something that was a huge pain point, and then without control, even. Here I was on this rant about, oncologists, which are crazy because there's oncologists that save people's lives on a daily basis. So it doesn't even make any sense. Much like because you were triggered this morning, you went on a rant about something or another because you were, it's like an automatic. You can't, but you're talking about the power of those stories and where they come from. And it is a lot of things that we experience that are traumatic when we were children or even as a full-blown adult. And we all have them.
Well, it took
and I
me-
think it's important to like talk about these things because
It took me
we're
all
not
day
immune.
today. It took me all day today to it didn't take me all day. It took a struggle all day. Like, okay, if you're in this drift, you're drifting to wherever this waterfall is, or the what's that called? The whirlpool, right? And if you've noticed, I don't want to go to this whirlpool anymore because that's like a hypnotic rhythm. This is where you go into automatic and everything else. You can drift right into it. All day today, just I was fighting the thought of blaming, fighting the thought of the stories coming up about how right I am, how I'm the only person that can do anything, how I'm the only person that can do everything. And that's why it brings me back to I have to do everything in the office. And unless I do everything in the office, then we're going to find ourselves back into this. And because I pulled back from the office for the last 3 weeks, then here we are right here when I was like attempting to have a safe space to do my work. So I'm saying, like, for me, like, the whole day is like, and to kind of keep that stand is hard because it's so easy
it's so
to go
easy.
into that automatic of blame, shame, guilt, right, wrong, and I'm not doing that right now. I would credit how I'm taking care of my health. That's how I credit, like, this is what I'm working on. Because when I get through that morning exercise routine, there's a lot of goo and gunk and whatever that negative energy is that
gets washed away kind of.
Right.
Or worked out.
it gets worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
I
the
see that.
only tonic or resolution or anything else that I can feel to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But see, when you just did that, I mean, it's like we all have this trauma, and this is one of the things. And I know the show's almost ending, but this like something happens where you feel a traumatic event that happened to you as a child, and then when it happens again,
Or even not when it happens to you when you're 34 years old. It can be too. The distinction is you're very open about traumas that you've experienced. Where I realize now that I've been really remiss is I never identified myself as someone who has suffered trauma, and I have. Period. I just have. And last week after the show, I spent some time with some dear friends, and a lot of it came up for me, actually. And I didn't even know. And my friend said to me, do you realize how much trauma you've been through in the last 11 years? And I never identified myself like that. So kudos to you for at least being aware of it. And I'm just now being aware of it. So we all have things. We all have things to get through, and this life teaches us a whole bunch of different things. But honestly, I'm so grateful that I get to see it and that I have that awareness now.
yeah, going down that path though. Going down that path it feels good to stay in that anger. It feels good to have the chip on your shoulder. I mean,
I heard something. I'm also reading a book, and the psychologist in the book said anger is nothing more than an analgesic. In other words, it's a way to also mask pain. And when you stay in it, it's just a way of keeping you stuck. Instead of feeling the pain, you'll conjure up anger. And sometimes anger can really work for you, but a lot of times it just keeps you stuck in what you're going through.
so we're gonna cut it off here this week, and we will see you here next week as we're trudging along till the end of this year. We are going to be talking about what's coming up for next year. What are we doing for the next decade? Because it's 2020.
It is the
And
next decade, people.
for at least 9 years of 20s, it's going to be like the roaring 20s. That's my prediction. So we will see you here next week.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.